Welcome to the Dream Power Show. I'm your host, Debbie Spector Weissman, the Dream Coach. Welcome to life, everybody. You might think that seems like a silly thing to say, but is it really? When we're born, we don't know any better. Life is right in front of us, and we face it head on by living in the moment and go with the belief that everything's going to be okay. But life doesn't often turn out like that, does it? Some of us get hit with the reality button when we're young and have to face obstacle after obstacle until we wonder, is that all there is to life? Some of us live lives that get better and better until one day something happens that puts us in a tailspin. We don't know how to deal with that. Then there are those remarkable people who find reason to find silver lining in life, despite the bad things that happen to them. And I have the honor to speak with several of them today. They're featured in the new book, Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy, which is spearheaded by my friend and amazing dream worker, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos. And she's brought with her two men I'm excited to meet. James Redfield, who wrote the foreword to the book, is the internationally renowned author of the profound work, The Celestine Prophesy, and Dr. Bernie Siegel, who is a prolific author, revolutionized cancer care, and has devoted his life to empowering patients to take control of their health and their lives. Welcome, all of you, to the Dream Power Show.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to be with
I
you.
have to tell you, the first story, two things just popped right into my head, from crappy to happy. While I was in college, I received 1 C in 4 years. So I didn't graduate with the highest honors because of that one grade. And it was in creative writing. And I have to tell you my sense of humor. See, how do you go from crappy to happy? When I had a New York Times bestseller, I wrote to the college, Colgate University. I said, if you just raise my grade to a B, now that I have a bestseller, I'd have summa cum laude, high honors in graduating. I did it as a joke. I thought they'd laugh, but I got this big, serious, multiple-page letter from one of the faculty telling me that you can't raise grades after you graduate. And I felt sad for them. Instead of laughing, at what I wrote, they sent me this serious letter. And the other is literally a quote from one of our kids. Imagine opening your emails in the morning and it said, life sucks. Most people suck. And if you wake up one day and the world's beautiful and everyone loves one another, you're dead. I thought that was, I loved it. I mean, he's got a good sense of humor. I know I don't have to worry about him. But, people need to keep the child in them alive. And I act like a child, and that keeps me happy. So when people say to me, how are you? I say, don't ask. I have so many problems. Why do you bring them up? And then they look at me like, oh, God, I don't want to talk to him. But what I tell people is, next time you see me, say, you're looking very well today. Well, I walked into a store the other day and a new cashier said, how are you today? I said, don't ask. I've got a lot of problems. I don't want to go through that in my mind every time. And everybody in the store was like, what's wrong with him? How rude can you be? And then an old-time employee of the store came out of the back and saw me. And she said, oh, you're looking very well today. And then the whole store burst out laughing. And I said to them, see how good it feels when you hear that? And last but not least, I don't want to use up the whole show, was when people learned they had a few months to live and they went home and did what felt right. A lawyer quits his job because he always wanted to be a violinist. See, he lost his life making his parents happy. He who seeks to save his life will lose it. A guy said, I want to die in the mountains of Colorado. It's beautiful. So I'm moving. A multimillionaire said, I'm canceling the dress code at work. Because when I met him at an event. I said, why are you dressed like that? He said, when they tell you got a few months to live, you cancel the dress code. And his wife got him to buy the house he always wanted on the ocean in Miami. He lived for over 5 years. When I called up to ask the family why I wasn't invited to the funeral of the guy out in Colorado, he answered the phone. This is a year later. These people were supposed to be dead in a couple of months, the most. And he said, it was so beautiful here, I forgot to die. And last was a lady who wrote me and said, I was told I had a couple of months to live, so I bought a dog, I put it in the backyard wildlife habitat, I laughed more, I took some vitamins, and her letter ends with, and I didn't die, and now I'm so busy I'm killing myself. Help, where do I go from here? I told her to take a nap. And, but, you know, that's what's convinced me. Your body gets the message too. Monday morning, we have more heart attacks, strokes, suicides, and illnesses. So that tells you what it does to you, and it's crappy to get up on Monday. So don't wait for a disaster to find happiness.
Yeah, well, I tell you, you know, you bring up such an important point, which is the role that laughter takes in our lives. I mean, if people laughed more, you know, it just elevates our energy and just makes us feel great. And like you said, it actually keeps us alive. I want to
let me interrupt a minute on humor, because my wife did stand-up comedy, like Henny Youngman, you know, one-liners. And one night, instead of getting in the audience and taking her seat when she took the stage, I stayed up there because it was an awkward climb down. And I could see the improvement in the physical appearance of the audience. Everybody's sitting up straighter, smiling. And at the end of the night, she would always get more thanks than I did. I mean, she'd get them to laugh for 15, 20 minutes. I would talk for 2 hours, and more people would go over to her and say, thank you. And laughter improves your face value. He who laughs lasts. And laughter is contagious, so be a character. Mm-hmm. You know, that sums it up.
Very much so. Well, James, I want to direct this question to you. What tends to make humans actually act in the opposite way, wallow in our pain and portray ourselves as victims?
Well, it's an interesting question. And I really think that we get in a habit early on in childhood. You know, it's well known in psychology and especially the psychology of spirituality, that what happens is that we hang on to a certain style in life, and sometimes, you know, it's safer. People feel like it's safer to always be guarded and complaining, and there's not enough, and you know, I don't know what to do, and other people aren't saving me. You know, people fall into habits, and they're always ego habits, and breaking through to that is something that I think we know very well how to do. I think the human race has reached a time, you know, the insights have come in a way that more and more people allow themselves to be guided in life, allow themselves to be resilient through finding, as you said, the silver lining. And it's certainly my thinking, and I think we each can prove to ourselves that if we allow ourselves to be objective about the brick walls we hit in life, right, and really look for that silver lining, and it may not feel like a silver lining. It's very often a lesson. But you know, if you believe in synchronicity, and all of us have these synchronicities, you know, these mysterious coincidences that feel like they're leading us forward in life. And if we really fall back on that, so that we can say, okay, well, we have to every happening is a possible synchronicity. You know, there's a lesson in it. There's an opportunity in it, and even the ones that hurt. You know, I mean, I remember when we were getting ready to self-publish the Celestine Prophesy, because that's, you know, we didn't have a publisher. We had publishers, but it was going to take too long. They wanted to wait 2 years, you know. And I felt like the Celestine Prophecy was very, very timely. So we just tried to create a small publishing company. Of course, I had to take, I needed to find investors. We found one investor, and that was our solution. And so we jumped right in, printing books, spending money like crazy, and all of a sudden, that investor completely pulled out. So just took off. Never acted on his commitment at all. And it was like, what does this mean? Does this mean that I was just in a pipe dream about how this book could be successful in the world? Did it mean that I made these horrible decisions along the way, poor strategy? All that went through my head. But I also knew that there's a blessing in disguise there somewhere. And what we did was we just opened the network back up. Somebody came in as an investor, and all of a sudden we had all the money that we needed. And interestingly, we find out that our former investor was under indictment for swindling people out of money. So, it was a complete silver lining that made us go in a different direction, still pursuing the dream. So, it's hard to do. But if you believe in synchronicity, these mysterious coincidences that are waiting to allow you to step into some destined mission or destined way of helping people, there are going to be synchronicities that open up, and there are going to be happenings that it's tough to make into synchronicities, positive synchronicities. But I think that's the challenge that keeps the flow going.
Let me add, none of this is new. I mean, what Jung said was the future is unconsciously prepared long in advance, and therefore can be guessed by clairvoyance.
That's right.
And what I found was, in all my travels and meeting wonderful people, it's what their parents said to them. We all had the same parents. They loved us. My mother said, Ma, I had a horrible day. God is redirecting you. Something good will come of this. That was not what I wanted to hear from my mother. Norman Vincent Peale said to me, my mother said, Norman, if God slams one door, further down the corridor, another will be open. Mom, I need to know what decision to make. Do what makes you happy. Aren't you going to help me choose? Do what makes you happy. So I spent a lot of time in my bedroom talking to God, because I said, my parents are no help, and I always thought if somebody comes in and says, who are you talking to? And I said, God, then they take me to a psychiatrist. But it worked. And the last was, how do you utilize money? And my father said, one of the best things that happened to him was his father dying when he was 12 years old. I said, you had a disaster, because he died of tuberculosis, uninsured, 6 kids and a wife were left. He said, no, it taught me what was important about life. So what did he use money for? To help people. It made my mother nervous. But because she'd say, they'll never pay you back. He said, that's not the point. I'm just trying to help people to survive. And I know that's like one of my genes, because it's hard for me to not help people. But he also said an important point that people need to remember, because one day, I got married when I was still in college. I didn't have a penny. And I said to my father one day, I just feel so guilty asking you for help all the time. He said, don't. If I don't want to help you, I'll say no. And that's something people have to remember also.
And I want to bring the subject back to the idea of synchronicities. This is something that I learned about when I was learning dream work, and it made me aware of how important synchronistic moments are in our life. And Bernie, I understand that there are a lot of synchronicities that help you deal with, that most profound tragedy, the death of your beloved wife. So you talk about that?
Well, what I've learned is what dies is the body. I mean, I've had many experiences in my life, including as a 4-year-old, a near-death experience. But what has been so amazing since my wife died is she's gone. I miss her body, but her spirit is with me. I mean, I have had, as I say, experiences. Numbers are an important part. My wife was born on 9/9, so I'll give you one example. 9 months after she died, my heart started beating irregularly. And that also, to me, made the most sense in a mind-body way. The person I love dies, what organ in my body is showing the problem? But I went to the emergency room, and as I walked in, a voice out of the back yells, "Put him in room 9." As soon as I heard that, I thought, oh, my wife's watching over me, it'll be fine. They said, "We can't find a room for you in the hospital upstairs." This is at Yale. So you have to spend the night in the emergency room. I realized why the next day. "Oh, we got a room for you." "What's the room number?" 819. And 8 is a symbol for a new beginning. Then I've got a wristband on, which identifies me as a patient and the event that's going on. All the numbers that identify me: 18996633. And all the other numbers added up to 9. It could be a 5472, but I've saved all the wristbands. Every single time, everything adds up to 9. The other is we were married on, well, I can hold this up. I don't know that you can see very much, but there were coins in there. Why would I save them? Oh, and the picture of my wife on the other side. See, I got her right over my heart. I started finding a dime and a penny everywhere. And we were married on the 11th. And when I say everywhere, a bird bath, the checkout counter in the store, when you park the car and go around to the trunk to get something, there's a dime and a penny on the ground. It's been unbelievable. But there are signs everywhere. And one last mystical thing, because last winter I said, my gloves are a mess. I need a new pair of gloves. I'm talking to my wife, okay? And I go to Stop and Shop, park, and I'm also often told, go into that space. So I park, that's where I'll find coins. Or this day, I go in, I shop, I come back. There's a pair of gloves lying on the ground next to the driver's door. Explain that, please.
I know, and these are the things that help us deal with the tragedies in our life and enable us to go on with our lives. And one of the other things that help us, I know it certainly helps me, are dreams. And I know dreams play an important role in all of your lives. Kat, I'm going to direct this first to you, and then James, I'd like you to talk about this too. Why should we pay attention to our dreams?
Well, like Bernie was saying and James was saying earlier, our dreams deal with synchronicities, and also through the sacred dream doors, we can connect with our deceased loved ones, like Bernie was doing with his deceased beloved wife. And so by remembering our dreams, and sometimes when we connect with our deceased loved ones, it's impossible to forget them because, we suddenly have that joy. Being able to see them in our dreams can really help to chase away the grief. Suddenly we're not alone anymore in our dreams. Suddenly we see them again. They look great. They look young. They're in their prime. Let's face it, nobody wants to die and go to the other side and still be old and decrepit. We go right back to our prime. We look great. We're dancing. Our pots, our little tummy pots are gone. We're like hot again. And so when we go back to our loved ones, it's like saying, hey, look, I'm happy, I'm not in pain. And James was talking about some of us have the habit of connecting with our id, and we're complaining. And so through our dreams, we can see that that person has changed a habit to a degree, because suddenly there's nothing to complain about. They look great, they feel great, they're happy, and it brings us inner joy. And we carry that joy with us throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, because we realize there is life after life, and love never dies. And those stories are brought to our consciousness throughout the book, Crappy to Happy. I mean, going from the crappy, the really, really crappy low of losing a loved one, to the really happy high of realizing they're not dead. Love never dies, and they can come back to us in our dreams.
Absolutely. And James, how have dreams affected you?
Well, dreams, I've always dreamed a lot. In fact, probably my first exploration into the mystical was, what are dreams? And the literature's out there. It's so many people do dream interpretations, and they do it a little different way. The one I like is, Bernie mentioned Carl Jung, and Carl Jung, by the way, coined the term synchronicity, right? He also founded the true human potential movement, which is looking at in a more logical way, and in a much more quasi-scientific way at religious experiences, and all those things. So what we know, what is integrating into the society is this long discussion of the human potential movement. The insights that I talk about are really conclusions from this long, really great exploration into the human potential. But Carl Jung also had a way of interpreting dreams, and I really love this way. Dreams very often are, if they're not perfectly clear, they're all somewhat symbolic, right? So the way he'd like to suggest that people interpret their dreams is to take the plot of the dream, and it may be garbled, but it'll have a plot. You may be running into a person that's chasing you, or you may be chasing another person in the dream, right? And he would say, well, just superimpose that plot of the dream onto your real life, and ask the question, who, in that case, the question would be, who are you running from? Who in real life are you running from? Is it a person? Is it somebody you know? Is it something within you chasing yourself? There's just so many ways to do that, to explore dreams at a different level. I think my own personal belief is that every night we go into the afterlife dimension and sit down at a big seminar about our lives. And we draw conclusions, some of them, but getting back into human reality, they get slightly garbled and are really symbolic, But they're definitely synchronicities in that they're bringing us information that could help clarify something in our life. And very often dreams will point out in my life, in my experience, and others that I know, how to come back after a shock, after a collapse of one of our dreams, or whatever it might be that has knocked us out of our flow. It's sometimes pointing out, dreams are sometimes pointing out where that silver lining it is, and it's always an adjustment. It's in my view, every time we hit a brick wall, it calls for an adjustment. and finding that adjustment and really having faith that you can find that silver lining is the key to me, because we've all hit brick walls in our past, but what happens is that we've also successfully navigated that in our lives, and keeping that faith that we can do it another time, because these things happen. It's part of growth, human growth, on our journey. And but anyway, dreams are a big part of that, in my view.
So true. I mean, they have so much to
bits for people.
us. I'm sorry, Rudy, go ahead.
God speaks in dreams and symbols. So when you turn your mind off, that's why you need to go to sleep. I called myself a Jungian surgeon. I talked to people when they were under anesthesia, and the anesthesiologist thought I was nuts. But patients would wake up and talk about what they heard during the operation. Okay, on the funny side, I have to tell you, is Frank Sinatra was singing "Why Not Take All of Me?" And the patient said, "Is everything all right down there?" I said, "Why are you asking? Listen to the music." So I learned to be careful what songs I played as background also. But I was changed by drawing a picture for Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, because she said immediately, I drew an outdoor scene. "What are you covering up?" I said, "What do you ask that for? You used a white crayon on a white piece of paper. You added a layer." See? And then, why is 11 important? Why did you ask me that? You drew 11 trees. And everything she asked me had meaning. And I thought I just drew an outdoor scene from my imagination. And it was amazing to me how important and significant, including colors. The rainbow that you have behind you is your life in order. And that's what people need to do. Solzhenitsyn uses the term about self-healing as a rainbow-colored butterfly. You transform your life, you go from crappy to happy, you put your life in order. The rainbow and the symbol of change is the cocoon, the butterfly bursts out. It takes work, but here you are. So all these things are not coincidences, and people need to understand that. And don't be afraid to draw a picture. I always say, who should I marry? What job should I take? Draw your possibilities and look at it the next day, and you'll see. And last but not least, when you lose a loved one, I learned that too. One of my little books is Buddy's Candle, because what I learned was, after my father died, I was involved in grief, accepting my mortality. I mean, it was an unhealthy way. And to make a long story short, you go up to heaven and there's a parade of fathers. They're all carrying a candle. I said to the angel who took me up to heaven, "There's a guy coming with a dark candle. Oh, go light it for him." I run up and it's my father. "Dad, your candle's out." He said, "They light it for me, but your tears keep putting it out." And what a whammo that was for me. Stop grieving. And then your father can be happy and you can be happy. Yeah.
Wow, what an important, powerful message to end this with. I have so many more questions to ask, but we're just about out of time. So, Kat, the final one comes to you. How do we find out more about the book and where to get it?
Kat, we're all going to run out of time, so enjoy your lifetime.
Right, Bernie, you're absolutely right. And Deb, to answer your question, believe it or not, Crappy to Happy is #1 on the Amazon bestsellers list. It's on Amazon. It's on my website, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, or you can just type in The Queen of Dreams and I'll come up. You can go there. And James Redfield, I think it might be on yours too. Do you want to give the audience your website?
Yeah, it's celestinevision.com. They're already talking about it in our community. We have an internet community now, and that's fun. but it's yeah, I really recommend the book. I want to say that out loud because it's really a great set of techniques and ways to make the big comeback, and we all have to do that from time to time.
And Bernie, I know it's on your website as well, because Patricia, I think, made sure it went up there. The publisher and co-author of the book. What's your website again, hon?
BernieSiegelMD.com, and Siegel's Siegel.
So Debbie, it's on all of our websites. We're really happy it's out. It was a work of love. It really was. We got great stories. We've got Bernie's story in there, and he's talking about his beloved Bobby when he lost her and all these synchronicities he was talking about. And James Redfield's foreword is unbelievable. It is. I mean, when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness. So thank you for having us on, Deb.
Speaking with authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, and Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos on how to go from crappy to happy.